SC Wolverines here. How's everybody doing? Lots going on. We're back in the saddle again. And I'm still asking the question, what about the drones? We got all this stuff going on. We got fires in LA. We got people running over people in New Orleans. You got Cybertruck blast. But the biggest story in the country just a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, was the New Jersey drones, and we never got an answer. What the heck is going on? So I'm asking that question. What I did is compile a whole bunch of information. We're gonna call it the New Jersey drone files. So I'm gonna show arguments, counter arguments. What could they be? I'm just gonna present the information to you, and it's ultimately up to you to decide for yourself. Don't want to make videos too long, so there's going to be file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4. We'll see how long it takes. We're just going to talk about this drone stuff, present it. I know it's not the headline news now, but like I said, so quickly we forget. And how come? How come we never got answers? How come it's just off the radar like it never even happened? So that's what we're going to do. The first file coming up, you might have heard something called Project Bluebeam, New Jersey Drone Files, File 1.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
It's interesting when you mention Musk as well, because Musk, if you go through his X threads there, on September 30th, did in fact put out a post that said drone swarms are coming and they're going to be beyond belief. Now, that's a prediction that he made. So I do think what we're looking at here is something which I've tried to put on the record before, which is they've created a UFO threat. And the UFO threat gives them the ultimate ability to call in an emergency powers situation and activate a continuity of government program. That's the kind of crisscross that's been building up in the background. And on some level, it's a high-risk gamble on their side. So there's been a lot of trial balloons in relation to this. Now, so there's something major going live. What I see technically happening, though, with the drone swarms and with all the reports and how there's a split between what the government is saying, which is total whitewash and absurd, that it's just planes, et cetera. No, people don't, people are used to planes. This is definitely a drone swarm, and it's a test. And the question is, will that test go live into a full-blown emergency powers situation? That's the activation that the person who set that up, they want to go beyond, they want to go to the third level of this and get into emergency powers. Once you have emergency powers activated, then Gregory Gio, who is the general that runs Northcom, and he also is in charge of NORAD, and he's the COG combatant commander, he becomes the complete ruler of the United States and sets out regional governors. And the regional governors that he sets up are supposed to be there until we can have an election sometime after the alien invasion eases up. But, definitely what they're doing with the drones, yes, we know drone technology, so they're UFOs, but they're technically known. And the problem is what they need to do is roll this out and get the test back and get the type of data back that they need. And then they can see whether or not they can make this test go live. And when we've seen drills and things in the past that went live, if you look at all the deep events through history, whether it's 9/11 or the different financial crashes and things, there's always a drill that's taking place, as we know, close by. And so this is the drill. But I'll tell you, it's so dangerously close to that line of the UFO threat thing that's been pushed by the intelligence community. And they've sent a lot of people out there running these congressional hearings, especially in the past 2 years, but from 2017 and the New York Times article on UFOs.
I think what the public needs to understand is this is a 75-year strategic plan that we're seeing unfurl before our eyes, and it's very worrisome. There had been a plan made where they would hoax an alien threat, and that this alien threat would be rolled out slowly through an indoctrination and psychological warfare but there would be a scaling up with all kinds of staged wars. And she actually saw, when she worked for an aerospace contractor as one of the first women executives, a plan in the 1970s. And people say, when did it start? I said it started in the mid 1950s. I have a document from the CIA director at that time stating explicitly, and this is in my book, Unacknowledged, that, and the documentary as well, that says that the psychological warfare value of this subject should be exploited. And there are a number of attachments that we did not get, but the document makes it quite clear that this is what they would be doing with the UFO subject. Remember, people give up their freedom and their power when they're afraid and they run to Big Brother. And so they want to create this sort of global Big Brother that everyone will bow down to. And what better way to do it than to have something that they claim is attacking the entire Earth?
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
My understanding is that that could have happened quite a number of years ago, but there are people like myself and my group that have been running interference on it. And there's some people very angry with us about this. The way we're going to stop it, if we can, is to get billion people or 2 billion people to understand the actual technologies humans have that would enable them to hoax this.
Yeah, they seem to roll this out every few months when it's useful. I'm not sure exactly what the motives are behind the present situation, because there could be many things going on. They might be setting up a false flag situation where the drones are blamed on some other country and we're being invaded. I think they tested that with Iran at the beginning. It also could be a situation where they are ultimately just trying to reinvigorate the alien deception narrative. And that is something that we've talked about a lot, because this is a long-term narrative and myth that they've been pushing and creating by design, according to some of their own white papers, like the 1960 Brookings Institute paper, which says that the discovery of alien life would upend all of the Western biblical tradition, because it would undermine the incarnation, and then they could really steer us into a new religion with some kind of so-called alien life announcements. Yeah, so I think the history of this is really what tells the story. When we go back to H.G. Wells, we go back to people who were the premier propagandists of their time. He was a war propagandist, a Fabian socialist, high-level Freemason, and he's one of the key figures in crafting the entire alien narrative. He wrote War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds is probably the biggest alien sci-fi story of all time. Been remade many, many times, most recently by Spielberg. So I think, this is a long-term myth that they've had, the Western power structure that they've been pushing on purpose.
So I got confirmation from family members that are still living in New Jersey. It's still going on. So the question remains, what was all the drones about? Biggest headline story a couple weeks ago, and just like that, just in a flash, it's off the radar.
SE.